For 18 years, the people lived with a weight on their shoulders that never lifted. It was not just the taxes, though those were heavy enough. Every harvest, a large portion of their grain, their oil, their livestock was taken and sent east across the Jordan. It was not just the soldiers either, though their presence was everywhere, watching, counting, reminding everyone who ruled the land. It was the silence of a people who felt forgotten. Israel was no longer free. The king of Moab, Eglon, ruled over them, and his power grew stronger every year. His palace was filled with wealth taken from the labor of others. His tables overflowed while villages struggled to eat, and the longer it lasted, the more people began to believe nothing would ever change. Oppression has a way of doing that, not just controlling the body, but slowly draining hope from the heart. But history often turns on moments no one sees coming. In a small place far from the palace, a man named Ehud prepared for a journey. He was not a warrior known for great battles. He was not a famous leader. To most people, he was ordinary, except for one thing. Ehud was left-handed. In most situations, that meant nothing. But on that day, it would mean everything. Quietly, carefully, he forged a dagger. It was short, double-edged, designed not for display but for concealment. When it was finished, he strapped it to his right thigh, under his clothing, where no guard would think to search. Most men carried weapons on the left side, drawn with the right hand. Guards were trained to check there. No one checked the other side. The day came to deliver the tribute to King Eglon. A group of men traveled together, carrying the heavy payments demanded by Moab. Grain, silver, goods taken from years of labor. Ehud walked among them, silent, his expression calm, his secret hidden beneath his garments. The palace of Eglon stood imposing and fortified, its walls high, its gates guarded. Inside, servants moved quickly, soldiers stood at attention, and the air carried the scent of wealth and indulgence. King Eglon himself was a large man, powerful in presence as much as in body. He sat comfortably, accustomed to obedience, accustomed to tribute, accustomed to never being challenged. Ehud and the others presented the payment. Formal words were spoken, bowed heads, ritual politeness. Then they turned and began to leave. Everything appeared ordinary, but just beyond the carved stones near the outskirts of the city, Ehud stopped. He turned to the others. "Go on ahead," he said. They looked at him, puzzled, but continued their journey. Ehud stood alone for a moment, the wind brushing against his cloak, the palace behind him. Then he turned back. The guards at the entrance recognized him as one of the tribute bearers and allowed him through. He requested a private audience with the king. "I have a secret message for you," he said. Those words were powerful. Kings were always listening for secrets. Rumors, threats, opportunities. A secret message demanded privacy. Eglon ordered his attendants to leave. One by one they stepped out, the doors closing behind them until only the king and Ehud remained. The room was quiet, the air heavy. Outside, life in the palace continued, unaware of what was about to happen. Ehud stepped forward. "I have a message from God for you," he said. Eglon rose from his seat, perhaps out of curiosity, perhaps out of respect for what he thought was a divine word. In that moment, time seemed to slow. Ehud reached with his left hand, the hand no one expected, and drew the dagger from his right thigh. The movement was swift, decisive, and before the king could react, the blade was driven forward. It was over in seconds. The powerful ruler who had dominated a nation for nearly 2 decades fell, and the silence in the room returned. But now it was a different kind of silence. Ehud did not panic. He did not rush blindly. He acted with calm precision. Locking the doors behind him, he left the chamber and walked through the corridors as if nothing had happened. The guards assumed the king was resting. Time passed. Servants waited outside the locked doors, hesitant to interrupt. Minutes turned into longer stretches. They began to feel uneasy, but still did not enter, assuming privacy was required. And by the time they finally opened the doors, Ehud was already far away. He traveled quickly through the hill country, the wind at his back, his heart steady but urgent. When he reached the region of Ephraim, he sounded a trumpet, the sharp blast echoing across the hills. The people gathered, drawn by the sound. "Follow me," Ehud said. "The Lord has delivered your enemy into your hands." Something had changed. Word spread quickly, like fire through dry grass. The fear that had held the people down for 18 years began to lift, replaced by something stronger. Hope. They moved swiftly, seizing the crossings of the Jordan, cutting off escape. And when the armies of Moab realized what had happened, it was already too late. The power that had seemed unbreakable collapsed in a single day, and the land had peace for 80 years. 80 years. Longer than many people live, all because of one moment, one decision, one man who walked into a room alone. But the deeper part of the story is not just about what happened in that chamber. It is about the quiet years before it, the years when people believed nothing would ever change, because history often shifts not with thunder, but with footsteps no one notices. A man walking quietly into a palace, a hidden blade, a closed door, and a moment that changes everything. No one in the villages harvesting their fields that morning could have imagined what was unfolding. No one waking at dawn believed that by nightfall, the course of their future would be different. But sometimes the turning point of a nation begins in silence, in secrecy, in courage that few ever see. And that is why the story endures. Not because of violence, not because of power, but because it reminds us that even in the darkest seasons, when silence feels endless and hope feels distant, change may already be closer than anyone realizes.